I'm Carrie Peters, a recognized thought leader in the Microsoft Dynamics community and a Microsoft MVP for business applications. Welcome to the Get Your New View podcast. Keep listening to learn how to increase utilization of your business systems, allowing your Business Central and NAV solutions to be a catalyst for your business growth and profitability. When we're done, I'll let you know how you can get in touch to put your goals and ideas into action and start moving your business forward. I would like to welcome Mark Rhodes, who is the New View Chief Strategy Officer, to the Get Your New View podcast today. Mark, I hear you have a story to tell, or a couple of stories to tell, about customer success with business process improvement. So what have you brought to share with us today?
I do have a few stories to share. And as folks know, I've always got thoughts to share. Sometimes they're even really good thoughts, but thanks for talking to me. Usually I'm the one interviewing the other person, so this is kind of fun. And it really was a walk down memory lane as you queued me up for this. I'll let the audience know she didn't provide me really any questions. She said, I want to talk about business process improvement. So I started thinking about, hey, when have I participated in that kind of activity? I did consulting for about 15 years before joining the user groups. I think most people know me out there for my involvement with the user groups. I went back and thought about all the projects I was involved in, and wow, what a myriad. And a walk down memory lane, as I said, to go back through my documentation and see what I did for certain customers and how we went about it. And I pulled out a few examples that I want to share with you just to kind of demonstrate some key points around why you need to take time to do business process improvement. It's often something you can put off. Often it's something that's not as high of a priority as resolving a customer issue, getting product out the door. And so it's hard to spend the effort and the resources to do it. But I got to tell you, every time has been an eye opener, at least the ones I've been a part of. And it's just fascinating to watch. If you don't even realize any measurable outcomes, there is still so much power getting people in the room talking about the process that they are following and getting people on the same page. And so let me walk you through a couple of those examples. I was at I didn't think about how to describe this. I want to keep the client names confidential. It was a large online retailer. It's a good discussion. And we're getting ready to put in a new CRM system. And we got the sales team and the customer service team together in the same room. And this was one of my favorite opportunities because it's one of those rooms with a huge board table and had the whiteboards all the way around, right? There was unlimited writing space. And so I just love that environment. We had a stack of sticky notes, all these different colors and everything else. And we started and said, okay, what's the first step in the sales process? And we had an argument right away. The very first step, they couldn't even agree on that.
Yeah.
It was so powerful. We originally slotted to be in that room for 2 days. We extended it a third day. Everybody in there just getting on the same page about what they currently do, right? They couldn't even agree to that. How are you going to be successful with a system implementation if you don't understand and agree with what you're already doing, right? That's just going to complicate issues. It's not going to resolve anything for you. So that was absolutely fantastic. Just the power of getting people together, getting them on the same page so they kind of understood not just their slice of life, but everything upstream and downstream, right? So
I love that kind of project, Mark. Yeah. And we hear that again and again, that understanding the connections between what happens upstream and what happens downstream on a project is really a huge aha moment for many of our customers. Yeah. That getting a chance to talk about that not only in their particular bubble, but to get outside of that and work collaboratively really allows them to come up with solutions that work well beyond what they had anticipated.
Now, I'll note a couple things. One of the key messages I'll come to at the end, but I got to say it right now. This is an extremely difficult process if you don't have somebody to facilitate this and who is a good facilitator, right? There is a lot of nuance going on here. There's a lot of egos. A lot of people have a hard time admitting they don't know everything, right? And this very process says you don't know everything. So there's a lot going on here. You really do need a very experienced facilitator to walk a team through this and keep the energy up, keep everybody coming together towards the common goal, and to kind of keep those egos outside the door. So it's a tricky situation, but powerful results.
Yeah, and I can't tell you how important it is to bring an element of fun to that facilitation.
Yes,
right. You talk about how that group was in that room for 2 days and they extended it to a third day. I guarantee you it's because they were having fun with the process and truly enjoying the productivity that they were pulling out of that together.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a really important thing that we talk about in our work all the time at NewView.
Right. And don't get caught up in you have to solve every issue on the spot either, because if you do that, it'll really bog you down. Your primary goal is just to kind of get to agreement. Then you if you can resolve some things along the way, especially if they're kind of quick wins, boy, knock them out. But you can't fix everything right away.
Yep, very true.
Yeah. So there was a couple other projects I was on where we came in and looked at their processes after an implementation, which was, I thought at the time that was such great foresight, such great intuition to think about, okay, we've got the system in, hopefully we fixed a lot, but let's come through and really determine, okay, are we getting our return out of the system? What's still broken? Right? Because there's such upheaval, right, with any system implementation and trying to understand it and adjust, and you're catching up on workloads and everything else. And they brought us in afterwards for two purposes. One, to look at how well the system was being used and identify the opportunities for improvement on that. And again, taking that process view. But another really interesting thing is they had several branches, manufacturing plants, and we went and visited each of them so we could identify what's the differences between them and make sure everybody from a systemic view is getting on the same page. So obviously powerful opportunities there because they could take advantage of what they were figuring out individually.
Yeah. That timing is critical, actually, Mark. And I love that you brought that up as one of your examples. When our customers bring us in to look at an implementation after it's happened, one of the key things that I'm looking for is how well have users adopted the new system?
Yeah,
it's so easy, even with training and preparation, that kind of thing. Once that new implementation happens, for people to fall back into bad habits because they're absorbing a lot of change as it is, and it's human nature to go back to old habits. So going in to take a look to make sure that all of those wonderful processes that were designed are being used and that people are understanding exactly what they need to do with that is a big key to correct and complete adoption of a new system. So that's great timing for any of that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. Well, and you think about it, nobody can interpret and immediately digest 100% of what a system can do, right? So it's human nature to fall back on a couple tendencies, but you're also, you can't absorb all of that at once. And if you have somebody from the outside, and it's funny to say, but for folks from the outside, they can always pick up these things faster. It's just the way because they're not mired in the detail of getting, product out the door or what have you on a daily basis. And they can come in after a little bit of time before everything's entrenched and you can't change very much. Get them in there to do that outside assessment. They can pick up on a lot of things very quickly. So there's one other project or one other process improvement activity that I was involved in. This time it was with the user group. So I was on the inside, and it was again highlighting just getting people on the same page. It sounds so simple, but it is so powerful. In this one in particular, if you've ever been to the community summit, right, it's a pretty big undertaking, right? The last in-person event that was held last year in Orlando, right, 7,000 people. There is a lot of planning that goes into that, and it took the better part of the year, right? Me personally, the whole process started in January for the October event, right? So a lot of moving parts, a lot of detail. And at one point, because we had the schedules and a lot of activity was specific to the user group, there was a lot of that planning specific to the user group. And I wouldn't say silos in a bad way. It was just that was the way it needed to be because we had siloed schedules, right, for the purposes of making sure we're doing the best sessions, right, for each community. And so we would all attack it slightly differently. And that was okay to a point, except that when you had some shared services. All right. So you can translate this to a normal business. They've got different departments, but there are shared services happening at every company, even though you don't call it that per se. And they were trying to deal with these differences and different timelines and everything else, right? I'd always be a little bit on ahead of everybody else, or at least I tried to be, and trying to deal with that and keep it consistent, right? It was very difficult. And then we would get upset because not everybody's on the same page. So we basically got together in a room. And it really only took 2-3 hours with this, just to map out the highest level steps. What are the 15 steps you do to get ready for Summit? That's really what we started with. And same thing as always, right? What's the very first step? Well, this group did this group did this, right? And we go this way immediately. But at the end of 2-3 hours, we had a consistent set of steps. But the really important thing that came out of it was that we had consistent timing relative to it. That was the most important part. And we came up with this model that X number of months ahead of the event date, this would happen. X number of weeks before the event date, this would happen, and so forth. So we had standards established that marketing could deal with, the events team could deal with. They knew these things are going to be done by this date, right? They could count on that. And so it helped them in their jobs. They knew what to expect. We knew that they were expecting it. We started understanding, again, the downstream effects. And the real key thing was the empathy that came out of that, because now we understood the pressure points for everybody else's roles, and why and how what we do affects them, and vice versa, and why they want things so early when we don't understand why they want it so early, right? And the empathy was fantastic. And then anytime we got into a discussion about timing or anything like that, we referred back to, okay, here's the standard, and that's what we're going to walk to, because that everybody can operate at best efficiency and full productivity based on that. It was powerful stuff.
Yeah, it really is. And that real feeling of empathy is truly, you can't put a value on that. I can't tell you how many times that we've been with different companies and working with their different departments and trying to figure that out. And you know that you've made the right steps when somebody from one department says, oh, but you have to do this thing, and that there's many 2 steps in there. So what can I do on my side to change things to make fewer steps in your area? And that's a real watershed moment when you see people in those different departments truly collaborating out of empathy. And it really makes a difference, because everybody truly is rowing the boat in the same direction in that moment.
Instead of throwing something over the wall, now I'm done with it and marketing can deal with it. Now it's marketing, I'm thinking about this, but it's going to change that. And that's going to cause pressure on you. What do you think, right? Way different conversations.
Yep. So, yeah. Fantastic.
Carrie, you know Nuvia Strategies, right? Yep. We talk about refresher training.
Yeah.
Right? Such a powerful concept. We know deeply, way down in here, right? Can you see that? Yeah. So how powerful and how important refresher training is. Yep. Seems like such a simple concept, and we'll get around to it. We'll hold a pizza lunch and that kind of thing. And then it never really happens. Yep. You got to make it a priority. And I saw this also at the user groups. We had, I think it was every Wednesday at noon. We had a what do we call it now? I can't even remember, but it started out around a CRM system, because we implemented dynamic CRM, and powerful system with a lot of pieces to it, right? And it started out with a basic need, and this is what I love: simple need, simple problem, but it grew to have such power. So the genesis was CRM team, the systems team gets multiple requests for help with the same thing week after week, right? So it was just pure self-preservation on their part. Instead of us answering the same question 10 times, let's hold a 15-minute meeting once a week and answer all these questions that keep coming in for the entire company, right? And just save ourselves a lot of time. What it morphed into was anybody could sign up to host on a weekly basis. And if there was something that we were doing that affected the rest of the company, go ahead and take that 15-minute slot and tell them what you're doing. Tell them what's going on, what's in process, and basically train them up. And my gosh, again, the power of just kind of being included, it moved from just that CRM system to really understanding what's happening across the organization, across all the processes and very, very different departments, right? For me, I took a lot away from the CRM training portion because now I didn't have to contact the systems teams near as much. I could get the answers I needed immediately because I knew how to do it in the system, right? Rather than waiting to hear and going back and forth and trying to get that. Made me much more intelligent in terms of figuring out trends and being able to look at either registrations or show up rates or anything else. Being able to run reports and do pivot tables and things to figure out what I needed to. But then, everybody again understood upstream, downstream, and that empathy. So that was. People were fighting to sign up to host meetings after a while, which was really a lot of fun. It was 15 minutes. I mean, you record it. If you had a conflict, you watch it later. Not a big deal.
Yeah. So, what a great way to put power right into people's hands, right? Just let them bring that problem forward to the group and do that.
Exactly.
So, Mark, one of the things that we talk about a lot is that the real world experience of our team makes a big, big difference in how we deliver services. Can you talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, exactly. I touched on it up front where, just to even facilitate one of these meetings, it's difficult. I can't tell you how many, probably hundreds and hundreds of meetings I've facilitated around these kind of processes and these activities, because you need to understand how to structure it, but how to let it flow, the tools to use, and especially to have somebody from the outside, because then they can rise above the hierarchy in the organization chart, and that's usually a pretty important point as well, right? To be able to let somebody go, but shut them down if they need to, and transfer attention and make sure everybody's spoken for, and all those things. It really is. It's a science, but it's very much an art. And I'd say just the experience too with tools, and it's something I wanted to highlight for everybody, is you do need tools. We're big fans of having the toys on the table. That's proven adult learning science at play there. We don't throw out toys just to have fun because we've got stock in a squeaky company, but those things really do get the mind going, and having a tactile stimulation compensates and allows the brain to think more creatively. There's some other tools I've used in the past as well. One I'd recommend for everybody out there is go to APQC, American Productivity and Quality Council, apqc.org. They actually back in the 90s took their database of benchmarking statistics and said, okay, what are the common processes every business does? And they broke it down, and there's 12, 13, 14 key steps: purchasing, sales, accounting, reporting, HR, and so forth. And then they have all the sub-processes under all that. If you want to start understanding what happens at your business, document those things. You need a framework for having this discussion. They've got it for you, and it's all laid out for you. You don't have to figure out, where do I even start, right? You're not starting with a blank page. So do that above everything else, right? Get a picture. We use Visio, right? And understand the science and the art of using Visio. I'm a big fan of swim lanes, for example, right? It's hard to learn all this just out of the gate. You bring somebody in that knows the pros and cons of using these different approaches and is able to apply it properly is really important. And I'd say sticky notes, can't have enough of those, but that's no secret. So
absolutely true.
Yeah.
Well, Mark, one of the things that I think you and I talked about a lot when we were first talking about what the effect of the business process improvement services were on our customers is we were trying to find that right word. And the word that we really came upon that stuck was that it was transformative.
Yeah. Can
you talk about how business process improvement is transformative in the work that you see with us doing with our customers?
Well, that's multifold. So it's a much longer answer, but trying to sum it up, I'm a huge believer in, you don't want people just focused on what's in front of them, what they're supposed to be doing and what their core responsibilities are, right? If they have that tunnel vision, I don't think you can do much with your business. I don't think that's the right environment to support, to drive. I'm such a huge fan of equipping your team to be creative, to be knowledgeable, to be incented and motivated to think differently, right? And so, in particular with the business process improvement, if they really don't understand the flow of your company, right? If they're only concerned with their little silo, their little area, how is anything ever going to change, right? If they know, again, I keep coming back to this, but it's powerful stuff. If they understand the upstream and the downstream effects, then they can make improvements, right? And I think most business owners out there want to continue improving, right? So there are many types of doing that, types of methods to improve, right? One is process efficiency. And again, if you don't understand your current processes, how are you ever going to become more efficient, right? So that's a core staple to even trying to do that. Looking for new insights, again, if you understand what's happening through the flow rather than just your silo, then you can start thinking about how can we make it better? What additional components can I put into play here? What's a good example of that? Just understanding that if I'm able to unpack a little bit more data or bring this piece of insight in from someplace outside my core focus, right? I'm trying to think of a good example back at the user group. I'm struggling to come up with one off the top of my head, but understanding what's happening before and after you touch the data allows you to combine all of that, right? And get a much bigger picture. And that opens up, what if we change this? What if we change that? If we can get this information out a little sooner, right? Or package it this way, what can happen? But right. you can't do that until you understand what's going on, yeah. Right? It's just pretty fundamental. Yeah. Come on with new service lines or new products, right? If you're able to see trends with what you normally work on, but then see customer feedback, or you see industry trends, or you see benchmarking data or something, and you can mash those up, again, that allows the creative juices to get going a little bit. And I just think that's better for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for such great stories and great examples, Mark. I really appreciate it. It's been fantastic getting to talk with our team members on the last few episodes about customer success stories with business process improvement. And you had a whole bunch to bring to the table. So thanks so much for being here.
And I want to leave everybody with just one last thought. Don't think this has to be a huge effort. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. Start it. Just try it. There's no harm in trying it, right? As long as you put some structure around it, and hopefully you check egos at the door and that kind of stuff. Get people in the room for an hour, just see what happens. It's amazing. And I think you'll be really impressed with how quickly you can gain some insights, make some improvements, and it'll give you the motivation to continue and do more of it. So hopefully there were some words of inspiration and all that. Thanks, Carrie. Appreciate being able to talk.
Absolutely. Glad to have you here, Mark. I'm Carrie Peters. Thank you for tuning in to the Get Your New View podcast. For more episodes like this on YouTube, click the subscribe button and ring the bell to ensure that you get notified whenever new content comes out. If you're listening to the audio podcast, please share an honest review on Apple Podcasts. If you are ready to rethink today for tomorrow, look for the link below and contact us to speak with our expert team. You won't find the level of no-nonsense, real-world experience we offer anywhere else, and we're here to put that experience to work for you. Do you think you could use more features of your software if you just knew how? Are you frustrated with inefficiency that never seems to get better? Did your team ever really get good training to understand how to use your business software? Do you suspect that there just has to be a better way, but you don't know what that is? We believe every company can benefit from increased efficiency and higher utilization of their software, and that it's possible to have fun while learning exactly how to do that. The experts at NewView Strategies will tap into the true power of Dynamics Business Central and NAV for your company by helping you to rethink today for tomorrow. Please contact us at getyournewview.com to get started.